Afternoon, fellas on YouTube. Video for my 3 subscribers. I know at least one of you guys is going to get something out of this, so why not? A little shop update with a project. So I'm waiting for parts. I'm between customer work, so I figure I'd do a little work on one of my pieces of equipment, which is a Bearcat shredder chipper. There it is right there. It has the, I don't know, 205cc engine, the brakes. This thing's okay if you're carting it around the house. You got a property that justifies shredding up your tree guts, and we're in kind of hurricane alley in the fall here, so being able to clean up tree guts around the house is always worth it. And on top of that too, I used to use this thing when I did a lot of landscape work. Used to truck it around and shred up bushes that I took out and whatnot, and disposed of the mulch, or left the mulch for the client there anyway. So anyway, I did use that commercially for a couple of years. Nothing crazy, just to clean up hedge pruning and brush jobs, but it's not what I would recommend for anybody going out there to try and make some money. All right, so let's get on to the mods. So the first thing I did was modify the anvil here. You may be able to see it along the edges. Let's see if we can get a good shot. Along the edges, I TIG welded in a drill bit. And I saw that on weldingtipsandtricks.com. Jody mentioned if you weld in a drill bit, you TIG it in, you'll actually harden that face quite significantly, and it's as apparent by the sparks that come off of it. And then I filled in the back, the gap between the anvil and the chute with 309 TIG rod. And that should A, bridge the gap, and B, provide the anvil with a much harder surface to strike the wood against. This motor's on the way out. I just got off the phone with the good people at the Tractor Dome. I got a 13 horsepower Chonda on the way. I think it's a Ducar motor. The other mods here is I'm building a cart for this because this tire is pooched. And one of the reasons I don't use it so much is it's a bit of a pain to lug around. So I'm building a cart to tow with my Kubota around the yard to do my cleanup work with. So I didn't want to go out and buy a set of tires, so I decided to use some 16 by 7.5 by 8 wheels I once had on the back of my Kubota. No, those are trailer wheels. That's a 4x4 bolt pattern, and on the Kubota it's a metric bolt pattern, and it is hub-centric, not lug-centric. So instead of going out and buying new tires and whatnot and making an axle or buying an axle, I decided, you know what, why don't I just make everything myself? So these are the hubs. It's just 2 pieces of 2 brass bearings machined up. And I just took some M12 by 1.25 bolts, tapped them into the back of the hub, and then threaded them in with some Loctite. You know, those run pretty straight and true. Obviously, the last thing I should have done was bore the center of those bearings with them pressed in. That should have been the order of operation, so I had to get in there with a little bit of a sanding mandrel on the end of this die grinder, some emery, and just take those down a couple of tenths. But anyways, those are some quick and dirty homemade hubs. Onto the rotor, I took that all apart and put it in the lathe. I had some bearings were pretty badly seized on there, so I had to beat those off and cut them off. So I did do some minor damage to the shaft here. What I did do is I chucked it up in the lathe and I put a thread in there, 3/8 coarse pitch, so I can make a tool to pull that back and forth on the bearings to bring the chipper knives closer to the anvil. And this is what the chipper knives look like. So here's the next part of the story. I chucked those up in the mill, and I used this tool I made here with a cup grinding wheel, and spun the mill up to 4,200 RPM or whatever it goes up to. At 4,200 RPM, it just took 1,000ths pass until I got what I call a beautiful surface finish. I know it could be better, but I like that. I don't have a comparator or a set of surface gauges, so a little bit of swarf right there. But anyway, to me, that's a good finish, especially for a milling machine. And then I got the idea to take the chipper knives and then bolt them to a 1-2-3 block. And yes, that is sufficient grip there. And then use an angle block, deck the bevel down, and then run a carbide chamfering tool along the face of it to give the chipper knives the serrations they need to shred up. Sorry, the shredder knives, not the chipper knives, the shredder flails, we'll call it, is what they are. So anyway, that's the progress so far. And for those people on my channel or follow Low Cost USA, there's no car in here anymore. I got a shed where that's living. I plan to insulate that and get it all tidied up. And my goal is to have all my landscape, pest control, and tree equipment in there, along with the car. And then I can use this space as my metal shop. Portaband stand, we'll give that a quick look. Whip this up in the summertime. Someone else's idea to put a couple of set screws in the back of the table so that you can tram in your bandsaw blade and get it pretty accurate. So there's the table, a little remote switch, all TIG welded up. That's super handy. If you don't have one, then that's worth it. It's always worth it to have the right cutting speed on metal products, and that's a really quick and cheap way to get it. There's the mill. Finally got a Bridgeport Series 1. Despite being furloughed for 18 months in the pandemic, running my own lawn care pest control business, and then doing quite a bit of machine work and welding, it was about time that I could justify that. It's crazy. You're laid off from your main gig, but you find new ventures and they prove worthwhile. So 2 Kurt Vices, that's cool. I figured, hey, I'd want a second one at some point anyway, so might as well buy a matching pair, or as close enough as you can get to it. So that's that, and I'll move over into my tool crib, which is going to get reorganized at some point here. This is a little Bikemaster 700 parts washer. It's an Aqueous parts washer. I'm using it with Citrusol and some commercial dishwasher detergent rinse aid to keep the flash corrosion basically down to next to nothing. So I'll get some more information on that Citrusol solvent. It's basically a citrus type degreaser, bit of solvent in it, and it does a great job of whipping down cutting oils and greases and whatnot. And my little special trick I got up my sleeve is this is for the pump, but this is for an aquarium heater. And I have this guy cooking at 94 degrees. So hot Aqueous solvent does a hell of a lot better job of removing greases and oils than room temperature solvent. And it's also not cold. So there's a benefit to that. Anyway, if you have one of these parts washers or any parts washer that uses the Aqueous system, get a cheap Amazon heater for an aquarium. And I don't know how long it's going to last, but we'll go from there, and you can expect a little bit better results. My lathe, when I got that, the bed was twisted a little bit, and I had to taper. So this machine is actually a little bit too short and a little bit too rigid to straighten itself out under its own weight. So what I ended up doing was making a couple of pads. Now this is a temporary home for this machine here. It's going to get moved to the other side of the shop at some point. But I ended up putting a twist in the lathe. I took the twist out, and now over about 3-4 inches, we're within 2/10,000ths of an inch. So I'm very happy with that for a 40-year-old machine. And if anyone's curious, this is a Mondial Celtic 12 lathe. And Gardner Mondial was, I guess, the importer out of Ottawa, Quebec. Still pretty tough to track down an English manual. But if you know where I can get an English manual for this thing, by all means, put something in the comments down below. Anyway, that's my little shop update. I hope this helps somebody, at least, like I say, one of my 3 subscribers. And once we get this wood chipper all back together with the new engine and the cart all dialed up, we'll tow it around and throw some wood in it and try it out. All right, thanks for watching.